And I think there can be leaders everywhere, whether it's a staff member, anytime you're participating in a team, you can share your skills and direct things in a more positive direction. So anyway, I don't want people to think that you only need to be a clinical nutrition manager. And often too, we have presentations that are about community service, about a new clinical topic, developments in healthcare. So lots of opportunities. I think we missed it, but I just wanted to kind of go over our vision, mission, and goals. So that is that members will positively influence healthcare through nutrition leadership, empower and support leaders to advance nutrition practices in healthcare. And our goals are to provide opportunities and resources for members to develop and enhance their multidimensional skills for leadership and management, and then lead nutrition-related healthcare initiatives to improve organizational level practice and influence public policy. If you're considering, thank you, Alex. Now I'm actually gonna, yeah. If you're considering joining the DPG, I would encourage you to go to our website, which is a real easy one, and just take some time to explore it, because there you'll find information about the practice group, leadership, the executive committee. We've got 3 subunits, which I'll discuss later. There's a list of our member benefits, upcoming events, our resource library, and the professional development tab, where you can find past newsletters and webinars. And then the banner on the right has our calendar with all of the upcoming events that we're offering. So I think now we're caught up with the slides. Thank you. Oh, that was good.
I had to take it out of presentation mode just because it's on a timer, so it keeps jumping forward on me.
Sure. Some of our benefits of being a member include the listserv, which I mentioned earlier, and I'm just always amazed at how generous some of the members are in sharing and answering, sharing resources and answering questions when you have one, whether it's something about a rare disease, whether it's about meal service, whether it's a staffing question. And I think across the nation, as we all face this pandemic the last year and a half, and hospital staffing and work models changed, there were supply chain issues, there was a change in how we deliver care to acutely ill patients. There were shortages of feeding pumps, and we switched to gravity drip in some situations. The members of the CNM DPG just found it invaluable to be able to connect with others as they were facing some of these crises. But probably one of the more popular member benefits is our annual symposium, which I mentioned earlier. That has switched to virtual, and I'll talk about that too just a little bit later, where there's an opportunity for networking with peers, continuing education and leadership development. We also have a newsletter, the Future Dimensions newsletter, and that has 4 CEU articles every year. We offer webinars. We've got a fancy spotlight presentation, every year that is focused on leadership or clinical management. We've got the resource library and a member directory so that you could search for other members that have an area of expertise. So for example, let's say you were starting with Cerner or Epic and you wanted to find other Epic users within the practice group, you'd be able to do that through find others through our member directory. And then of course we do have a House of Delegate representative, just as other practice groups do, who regularly updates us on Academy programs and issues. So the next slide, I think, talks about the annual CNM symposium, and we had to cancel, unfortunately, in 2020. So we had our first virtual symposium in 2021, and that was a huge success. Rather than doing 3 days in a row, 8-hour days, we offered 2 half days that were 4 hours. And that allowed people to still do their work and address issues while still having some time to break away and participate in sessions. So we're doing that again this year. That will be March 24th and 31st. And of course, because it's virtual, it's a steal. It's a really good price. And then in 2023, we'll be in Raleigh, North Carolina. So it's we just received all the speaker proposals and are currently working on the agenda. And I believe registration, if you would be interested, will probably open up in near January, February of 2022. Let's see, I think that's that. Then we talked a little bit about the electronic mailing list, and there's easy directions on how to sign up for that if you do become a member. And then I mentioned our newsletter, which is called Future Dimensions. It's usually about 15 pages, and it has at least one CPE article every newsletter. The past 2 years, our fabulous team have done a special edition. So in 2020, there was a special edition just on the pandemic and all the issues, as I mentioned before, that clinical nutrition managers were addressing, whether it was enteral feedings, whether it was supply chain, whether it was staffing. And then this past year, there was a special edition on diversity and inclusion. And they're just excellent resources. And if you were to join, those are all available, past issues on the website as well. And we'll go to there we go. Our resource library has just been revamped. And in this, under this banner, you'll find tools that others have shared about the electronic medical record documentation. There's a great toolkit on how to use a dynamometer for grip strength. There are sample job descriptions, book resources for leadership and staff development. There's also a malnutrition diagnosis toolkit, samples of patient education, information on pediatrics specifically, quality improvement projects. There's reimbursement toolkit, and then also information on food system management, IT, and enteral and parenteral nutrition resources. So we have 3 subgroups within our practice group: informatics, quality and process improvement, and then our pediatrics management subgroup. Go to the next slide. The informatics subunit has been probably the subunit that we've had for the longest. And then of note, there is now a practice group specifically addressing informatics. And so they're working together. But this is a good resource if you are looking at specializing in data collection through the electronic medical record, or diet interface information, or setting up new medical records and working on collaborating with the IT team. Next slide. Our quality and process improvement subunit, though, is probably one of the most popular. They have tried to create venue for members to share projects that they're working on by developing a poster session contest at our symposium. We did miss it last year with our virtual symposium, but this year we are going to do that as part of the app associated with our symposium. There's typically voting with an award for the member favorite, and then the judging committee also selects the top project. And the first place winner receives free symposium registration for the next year. Next slide. And then our newest subunit is the pediatric management subunit. And some of the goals they've been working on is establishing some specific benchmarking and staffing data surrounding pediatric practices, which are slightly different. And then next slide. We also send out probably about every 2 months a news you can use e-blast, which includes updates between our newsletter, current activities the DPG is involved in, academy updates, kind of diluted, the ones we think will be most pertinent and interesting, reminders, and then resources that we think would be helpful for new members. Next slide. And then we also have committees that welcome volunteers. While students can't necessarily hold an elected position, we do have a public policy committee, fundraising committee, professional development committee, and of course, member services, which Alex was involved in as she was serving as our student liaison on the CNM executive committee. And if you might be interested in participating, you can go to our volunteer survey under the member benefits tab. And then we have tried to stay active in different forms of social media. And so these are some of our handles if you'd like to follow us. And thank you. And if anybody has questions that I can answer, I'd be happy to do that.
Well, if no one has any questions, like I was telling Kerry earlier, it wasn't until I was actually involved with the DPG that I realized the services that they offer to students and interns. So that's why I wanted to get you out here and talk to us. And I know we have a small group here, but we got people scattered everywhere. So I recorded this for them to watch later. And we really appreciate your time, Kerry, and thank you for coming out to talk to us.
Yeah, I guess the other thing I'd like to add, Alex, if I could, is just to remind people that there is a scholarship that is new as of 2020-21 through actually 2 scholarships through the CNM DPG. And I'm not certain exactly when we will be taking applications this year, but I'd encourage people to watch for that. And you do need to be a CNM member to qualify for the scholarship, but you can join at any time.
All right, perfect. Perfect, Kerry. Like I said, I appreciate your time. Does anyone have any questions?
I had a question, and you may have mentioned this, and I apologize if I missed it. Is the symposium open to all students? Like anybody could obviously pay and go to it, or is it only members of the DPG?
No, you could attend.
Okay, awesome. And one other little note I was curious about, just because everyone's always asking about preceptors, especially being distant students, does the DPG offer any assistance with finding or have any sort of resource or anything like that as far as clinical preceptors or potential preceptors?
You know, we have not, and that's a really good question. We have not in the past. I don't know, I wonder if it's nutrition, it's NDEP, right? Nutrition,
Mm.
dietetics, education practitioner. Let's see, I'm trying to think what the acronym is. I'm not remembering, but NDEP might be better able to place somebody. I think that most of my colleagues that I speak to have programs and have students already. But that's not something that we've done in the past.
Sure. Yeah. I was just
Mhm.
curious if y'all might have some sort of,
Yeah.
resource or something like that I could tell people about.
Yeah, I will say that, well, Alex found a job on her own. We have had great success with our previous student liaisons connecting through, peers within the DPG to help locate jobs after finishing their programs.
Oh, awesome. That's great to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Cool. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Anyone have any other questions? All right. Well, thank you so much, Kerry. I hope everyone has a great
Yeah.
night.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.